Hey guys, I've owned this Samyang lens for over 3 years now, and this is my experience on it. Considering this lens has been on the market for over 7 years now, I've only managed to find around one proper review on YouTube for it. The 20mm is a pretty versatile lens for basically any situation. I mainly use it for landscapes, but car photography, nature, macros, street, this thing can pretty much do it all. While this is a wide lens, it doesn't really give a ultra wide feel to it. Like, it's not a fisheye or anything. It gives a pretty zoomed in feel in the photos, especially on an APS-C camera, which I do use it on. Overall, this lens has really nice build quality. It is made of metal, focus ring feels pretty smooth, moves nicely, and the aperture ring has a nice click to it. This lens hood, nothing special, just plastic. Same with the front lens cap. Technical specs, this lens has 13 elements in 12 groups. Aperture 1.8 to f/22. 7 blades of aperture, you can see them here. And filter size 77 mils. It is a pretty heavy lens, 525 grams, and it feels pretty heavy when you're using it on an APS-C camera, but full frame it should fit quite nicely. This lens has a minimum focusing distance of 20 centimeters, so that is really close. This lens is really good for macros. You can pretty much put your subject as close as this. So here's a bit of a demonstration on that minimum focusing distance. You can get about that close, which I find surprisingly good for a 20mm lens that is not made for macros. However, a pet peeve of mine about this lens is it's really hard from here to here. Like, this is 1 meter and this is infinity. Like, if you're trying to focus on something far away, you have to really you have to use the camera to pixel peep and zoom in on what you're trying to focus on, because if you just try to eyeball this, 99% of the time I cannot get a sharp image when I'm using this.
So guys, here's an example of the image quality that this lens can produce. As you can see in the center of the image, it stays pretty sharp. You can see all the textures in the bushes and the rocks here. No issues for me in the center, but as you start moving towards the edge, it does get a bit blurry, as you can see here. That might have something to do with me shooting on APS-C, but honestly, I'd expect a little bit better from this lens, to be honest. Moving on to the low light performance of this lens. This is a raw image straight out of the camera, 25-second exposure. As you can see, it creates these kind of cool star effects on the lights here. Image very sharp. I've had no problems using this at night for stars, like astrophotography. Bokeh, you can't see much in this image, but it does stay very circular and it doesn't get any weird shapes or weird blurs along the edges of the images. In this image we can have a look at the flare performance of this lens. I'm shooting pretty much right into the sun, and honestly this is probably the best performing aspect of this lens. I very rarely get any weird shapes when I'm shooting directly into light, and chromatic aberration is always well controlled. I'll show you the original image. Like, very little on top of the trees here. Yes, this is shot at 1/4000th of a second, but I think it's still very good performance. And this is an example of chromatic aberration here, and this is really cherry picking the negatives of this lens. Like, overhead sun here, as you can see, tiniest bit of flare here from the lens. Like, it rarely gets any worse than that. You can see bit of fringing here, very pink, bit of blue on top of these sparkles all over the water. So yeah, obviously that doesn't look very nice, but it is a very bright image. And remove chromatic aberration, Lightroom, yeah, it still doesn't really get rid of it. So again, really cherry picking, but this is probably the worst example I can find.
So compared to other things in the market, this is around 750 Australian dollars, which is okay. It's a bit steep considering there is options around $250 to $300, which are also 20mm but around f2.8. And on the higher end there is 1,000, 1,200 plus Australian dollar lenses like the ones from Sony and Sigma, which are even faster aperture and I would say definitely better image quality than this one. Additionally, this is a manual focus, manual aperture lens, which the cheaper options in the market offer autofocus, and so do the more expensive ones. I don't think there is any other manual focusing 20mm on the market at the moment, but yeah, I guess if you really want a manual lens, this is not too bad. It is also worth mentioning that Samyang themselves offer a 21mm f1.4 lens, and it's half the price and half the weight of this thing. Although it is made for APS-C and this is a full frame lens, I reckon you're much better off getting that one, even if this one has better image quality. I've personally taken many great images with this lens, and without it I wouldn't have captured my best photos. But the image quality that this produces and how hard it is to focus, nail focus on it, it makes it not very suitable for any other applications other than landscape or very still scenes. And that is my verdict, guys. Please let me know what you think of this lens in the comment section. Tell me if you think it's worth it. I think there's better options, but I definitely have enjoyed using this lens. You just really need to be patient when you're taking photos with this lens. You have to have a lot of time on your hands because, yeah, you can't rush a manual focus lens. Anyways guys, thank you guys for watching and I hope to see you soon.